All right, it's full house tonight. I'll call the meeting to order. We're here for Freeport Town Council meeting number 14-23 at Freeport Town Hall on Tuesday, July 11th. With us tonight so far, we have Councilor Fournier.
Here.
Councilor Lawrence.
Here.
Councilor Daniele.
Here.
Councilor Egan.
Here.
Chair Pilch is here. I do not expect Councilor Bradley, as he has a prior social commitment. But I assume that Councilor Pillsbury will be arriving soon. Are we okay on minutes? Is somebody going to record and take them later?
They weren't supposed to, so let
Okay.
me find out what's going on with that.
Okay. While you're doing that, we can stand and do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next up, we have a motion to waive the reading of the minutes of meeting 13-23 held on June 20th and to accept the minutes as printed. Anyone willing to make that motion?
So I'll make that motion.
Second.
Thank you. Any corrections, discussions? All in favor of approving the minutes?
Aye.
I'll abstain since I wasn't there, but that's enough with a 4-0 vote to carry that, with one abstention and 2 absent. Third order of business, announcements, I have 2. Nomination papers will be available July 31st for the following candidate positions to be elected on November 7th. Counselor at Large, Counselor District 2, Counselor District 3, RSU Board of Directors, 2 positions, Sewer District and Water District. Please call the clerk's office for additional details. The fire department's new combination pumper tanker is now in service, referred to as Tank 2. The department continues to train its members on the apparatus with driving and pumping. Those are all the announcements I have. Does anybody else have announcements to make? Seeing none, move on to information exchange, our 4th order of business. Time for us to exchange information with each other and the public. Anybody have any information to exchange? Councilor Lawrence, no?
No, I'll just say that Complete Streets is taking a month off this month. Everyone's busy.
I think a lot of folks are. Councilor Egan.
I'm glad you mentioned that, Chip, because I was going to ask. I got the email from Sally about accessibility task force related to all of our public town facilities, and I'm just wondering if that was going to come from or through Complete Streets, or if there was going to be another focus on that.
That's a good question. Is it, I don't know if accessibility does come. I mean, if it's on a street level, it would be coming through Complete Streets.
Yeah.
But if
Well,
it's something else.
I don't have all the details in Sally Walsh's email, but it was compelling, and I guess if we don't have it assigned to a committee, then maybe we could find a place for it so that it can get some traction and get some input, so. Big supporter of that.
Yeah. Do you have thoughts? Because it's not, I don't think the accessibility task force is an official town committee, right? It seems like it's always this.
That's
Outlier.
correct, or at least if it is, it hasn't met in a while, but it's time to bring the issue forward again while we're doing a lot of downtown planning and converging our assets on connectivity and all kinds of other reasons why, so.
Yeah.
I don't have any brilliant ideas right now on where it might live, but I would be happy to follow up. And so I'll take that on and bring something back for the next meeting.
Okay. Thanks. Yeah, Councilor
I'm
Fournier.
just wondering if that could be a subcommittee maybe of Complete Streets, because it seems like we have a lot of committees,
Yeah.
and maybe that could focus in and allow for better communications.
Yeah. Do they have capacity, Chip, do you think?
Pardon me?
There's a lot going on.
Yeah, that's.
And I mean, is it only, it's not just the streets. I
Right.
mean, that already comes through, so I guess we need to talk to the
Yeah.
chair and see if there's capacity.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and it might be just an ad hoc group that
Right, the
kind of,
reports.
at least nothing else, just highlights the topics that need to be addressed.
Yep, that
Capital
could be.
planning, I mean, it could just be get things on the board for town staff to take on, and budgeting and town planning, capital improvements, blah, blah, blah.
Yep,
So,
okay.
but anyway, that was a compelling message.
Of note is Meeting House Arts is doing some music in the parks. We all got little postcards up here tonight. Mostly Thursday nights at Winslow Park, and it looks like one Saturday a month at Memorial Park, and also a Friday night at Memorial Park, too. So that's always a fun time. I've been to those, and they're awesome. So, and we have a new platform for the events in Memorial Park, which we're kind of testing out this year to see if the location works, and then if it does, we have some money approved to build something more substantial in the future
With an accessibility ramp,
with an accessibility ramp.
which we were able to use 2 Saturdays ago.
Awesome.
One of the musicians was a wheelchair user and was able to get right up onto the platform.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Great. Any other information to exchange?
I'll just mention the Housing Committee had its last meeting as a joint meeting with the Planning Board, which was very fruitful, and lots of topics came up. We were unable to get a schedule to meet in the beginning of June, but we meet again tomorrow night. And so we'll be, I believe it's here, at 6 o'clock or 6:30 tomorrow night for the next Housing Committee, with a focus on specific ordinance locations to look at for addressing housing shortages in the community and changing zoning, and suggestions on how to amplify and provide more incentive to get more housing built, particularly in downtown.
Sounds encouraging. Anything else? All right, we'll move on to our fifth order of business, which is our town manager's report.
Okay, so first you'll see in the front row, there's a sign of the Hunter Road Fields Trail Map. So we were given that by 2 seniors in Freeport as part of their senior project. They reached out to Adam. I believe it's the trails that are on Hedgehog Mountain, but you can access them from either site. So I came into my office one day and the sign magically appeared. We tried to get them to come to you, but as you know, when you're in high school and a senior, the end of the year is really crazy. So they gifted this, Emily Wallace and Madeline Knight created this and gave it to the town of Freeport. So we've had it in the hallway. I thought we could give it to the Hunter Road Fields Committee and see if there's a spot out there, maybe a more sheltered spot that they could hang it. So I just want to thank them and just show the council tonight that gift that they generously created and donated as part of their senior project to the town of Freeport.
I just turned the mic on.
Okay, sorry.
Caroline, do you know if that board is weatherized for it to be outside now?
I don't
or is
know,
it-
it seems to have some kind of protective coat on it, but I
Right.
can follow up. That's why I thought maybe under the roof at Hunter Road Fields or even inside somewhere that it could be a little bit more protected. Or I think they do have like covered spots for trail maps
I
there.
think it says you are here, so I think it has
Yeah.
to go
Where it
Yeah.
says you are here.
there.
So we'll see if we can find a good spot.
Looks like at the,
to put it.
actually the end of
It's at the transfer station.
Transfer Station Road, yeah.
So we'll find a
We'll
spot.
make a little covered thing for it.
Yeah, there is a covered thing. I don't know how it relates. So we can work on that. But so with staff, I just want to let you know we've been doing some training. We had the town attorney in to do 2 trainings on the Freedom of Information Act. That's a requirement under state law. Everyone needs to know like what public records are, the retention, what's public, what's private, and some different rules for boards and committees. So we had 2 trainings. One was just kind of a general for, more of our administrative and counter staff, and then we did a second session for the people that staff board and committees, so they're aware of public notice, what creates open meeting and all like that. Our next staff training will be in September. We're gonna be working with SMCC and bringing somebody in to do some general customer service, so we're hoping that most of our staff can attend that. We have had some communication with Baker Tilly. They are well underway to starting the town manager recruitment process. They sent us some draft narratives. They have a 5 or 6 page publication that they're going to be sending out and circulating to start the recruitment process for a town manager. I'm fingers crossed, I'm thinking that could be out as early as the end of the week or the beginning of next. They have sent us an updated timeline. Once we get the final publication, I'll make sure that Judy Hawley, our assistant manager, shares it with the council. Their kind of updated timeline would be to get the recruitment and publication out there to start calling people or trying to seek applicants. They've talked to all the council one-on-one at this point, or at least given you a survey to get some initial feedback. So we'd be looking at an August deadline for applicants to submit their materials if they're interested. We would then be looking at some survey work to be done, both of the council and of the public. We would be looking at Baker Tilly coming to the council in August with information for the council to review. You know, that they've kind of screened through the applicants, and then we'd be looking at September for a selection of final candidates by the council in conducting interviews. So again, we'll send that to you. I did sign you up for an extra meeting if needed. They said there is a potential that they could need you to meet in extra time, and so if they do feel that way, it'd probably be in September, and I would bring that to you as an agenda item, but I know this is important, and I figured the council would be willing to meet. So we'll make sure that it's a date that works for you, but I did say that I thought you would all be open to that. Last night, the Board of Appeals took final action on an appeal that was filed regarding a project review board decision for design review certificate, subdivision approval, and site plan approval for a 30-unit housing project next door at 22 Main Street. The action by the Board of Appeals did reverse the decision of the project review board. If somebody wanted to appeal that Board of Appeals decision, the next step would be that it would go to court. If it goes to court, I'm sure I'll bring it back to you as something to talk about in the future, but it was well attended in the beginning, less so as it went on, but just wanted to give you an update on that. And then we also had fireworks, thanks to many people that pulled together very quickly. Pine Tree Academy came forward as a host site. They had volunteers, we had community members that volunteered, we had the Freeport Police Department that worked overtime to pull off a road race, a concert, a parade, and make sure that our town was safe and traffic was circulating.
All in the same day.
All in the same day, in addition to everything else they do. Our fire rescue team was also on staff in case of emergency. We were one of the few towns that were fortunate enough to pull off all of our 4th of July events, and the weather cooperated, but they were out there on a holiday in the rain. So I just want to thank them, because there were many people, including those two departments. You know, the chamber came together, we had the firecrackers. It really did turn into a community event. That being said, it was a launch site we hadn't used in a while. The launch site was Pine Tree Academy. We had to use bigger firecrackers this year. If people had feedback on the visibility or the viewing or just the show in general, I think, you know, we would welcome that. You know, if we want to continue to have fireworks, we need to find a site that works, that is also provides a good, safe place for the public to view. So if anyone got feedback or has feedback, we welcome that feedback. You can send it to me or Judy, and we'll happily take it for the future events.
If it had just been 500 feet higher, you could have seen it from the Hunter Road Fields. You could just see them at the
Oh,
tree
you
level.
can see the tops. Yeah, I was wondering that.
So who pulled the plug on the old site where the snow dump was on the snow road?
So most recently, we had been launching them from the RSU property, but the RSU felt that there was a lot of debris. Cleanup was hard. They had issues with trash. There was a big issue with people putting sparklers into the ground. And they said debris got on top of the buildings there. So they didn't want us to use that as the launch site. So we then didn't have a site. We tried a couple others and they didn't work. And then Pine Tree came forward. They did them up back on their soccer fields. Debris really didn't seem to be an issue over there. It was really wet too, so I don't know if that helped or not, but they seemed to be happy, and they actually didn't even need help cleaning up the next day. We offered to have a team. We offered to bring the sweet sweeper, but it seemed to work well up there.
I just would like to go back to RSU. I think it worked well for a number of years. And yep, maybe it takes a little bit more effort to do that for the community, but maybe they need to step to the plate, because one of the problems, I think the lower ones no one could see due to the trees or whatever. So, I just, I would like to, maybe you could direct me on who we can ask up there, or the superintendent or something, and start the conversation early, so maybe we can resolve that.
So I came into the fireworks conversation late after Peter left. First thing I did was go to the RSU. I know they are without a maintenance person right now, so I understand that they had concerns in being without a maintenance person and being, close to summer and school getting out, that it wasn't something we could pull off. But, now that we have it under our belt and see what it takes and what kind of debris there is, I hope, and now that they're staffed, hopefully we can reach back out to them and see if we can find a way to pull them off next year. If not, Pine Tree Academy has already indicated that they're willing to be a partner with the town of Freeport. So I definitely think it's something that we can explore early.
Thank you.
And then in other exciting news, the town of Freeport Town Hall staff is going to have a new employee. So we had a vacancy due to the unfortunate, unexpected passing of Gail Moody. We did put out an ad from recruiting an accounting assistant. We have been able to quickly fill that position, and we have a new employee that will be starting on Tuesday. So you'll see a new face around Town Hall. And then finally, some exciting news from the Public Works Department. Earl uses flaggers quite a bit, and flaggers are getting pretty costly. So he had money in the budget, and so he purchased 2 new kind of freestanding stoplights that are going to direct traffic at construction sites. They're on timers. They'll do a countdown so you know how much longer you have to sit there. But if you see some road construction, you might see these red lights on wheels as opposed to a human flagger there. So we're going to try it out. He's pretty excited. I think he thinks it can be pretty efficient and that will keep traffic moving safely. That's all I have.
That's it, huh?
I know I had a lot tonight.
Any questions for the manager? I do have one correction. I reviewed my emails, and Councilor Pillsbury did tell me that he is not coming tonight, so he was excused, and I had just forgotten, so it's my mistake. So this is all we're getting tonight. All right, next up, sixth order of business is our public comment period. I know we've got at least one presentation from the public tonight, but if there's anybody else on Zoom who wants to speak, raise your hand and we'll recognize you for public comment and give you 3 minutes to address us. And Ms. Vayu, you have an update for us. All right. Oh, not yet.
I gotta find the email, so.
Your emails are up on the screen, just so you know.
Yeah, I'm aware of that.
Self-appointed town cemetery guru. And I just wanted to give you a brief update on what my merry band of stone lovers is up to these days. As background, Freeport has 10 ancient cemeteries which are town-owned. You have 7 private cemeteries, that's like the Burr and the Woodland, the big ones. And you also have 3 small family-owned cemeteries. Total, you've got approximately 480 veterans, of which for the last 100 years, the American Legion Post has been taking care of your obligation for putting flags up and taking flags and the maintenance of those stones, which is where this all started. So there's a couple rumors going around, and I want to take and put some of them to bed and let you know that all of the town cemeteries are closed. So when you see people working in the cemeteries, they're not opening up new grave sites for a new burial. I was told I was doing that. We are also not restoring stones that were vandalized. Very thankfully, Freeport has not had an issue that I've ever heard of kids or whoever vandalizing our headstones. These are all old stones that Mother Nature has taken a toll with, and they are in need of a lot of TLC. All the individuals that are doing the preservation work have completed the Maine Old Cemetery Association 4-day training. And the new individuals are trained on how to do the cleaning method, which is approved by MOCA and is also used by the military to clean all of our national cemeteries, tombs of the unknown soldier, that type of thing. So it's called D2. D2. It works very well. And we are all under the preview of Joe Ferdinini, who is the owner of Gravestone Matter. That's his company. And he is actually hired by, not hired, he volunteers every summer to come to Maine and teaches MOCA's 4-day class. And then he stays in Maine for about 5 weeks. And we've been lucky enough these last year and this year for him to spend 5 days in Freeport working on the Porter's Landing Cemetery. And we will be there again starting Friday, which is why I'm here today. So if you get the phone calls of those crazy people, you'll know what it is we're doing. Okay, tech. So I just wanted to give you a little, very brief, on what it is that we're doing and show you some of the things. So this is a little individual who we found last year. She was almost buried by the weeds. And she's in about 8 different pieces. It's a slate. Next. And her name was Patience, and she died in April 14th. And we're not sure of the ending. It says April 18 and then a 1, and we're unable to get the last date. She was 2 years and 4 months old when she died, and that's what she looks like today. Next. This is a picture of the front row taken from the street when I started back in 2018. And if you notice, there's 2 little spots there in the very front. Next. Those ended up being Eliza Lunt and her daughter. Her daughter was 2 years and 9 months when she died. And the second one was the husband. And that's what they look like today. Next.
This is on South Street?
Porter's Lane, yep. So one of the nice things about having Joe come in is he brings in heavy-duty equipment. And so this is a coffin monument, Thomas and Loran coffin. Every single piece was unglued and had slid, so they were just about ready to fall over. And if somebody had come in there and put their hand on one of those pieces and leaned against it, it would have fallen. So, next. With his equipment and his knowledge and also the groupies that come with him, this is a groupie who lives up in South Thomaston. We take them all the way down to the ground and we put in a whole brand new foundation underneath them, and then piece by piece we restore them and then put them back together again. Next. And that's what it looks like today. Go ahead. This one, I found this piece leaning against another stone, helping to support it. And just, I don't know how, but we were probing for something else, and I found the base piece. Next. So I was able to glue her back to her base, and then using a compound called Lithimax, that's what she looks like today.
That's great.
So we're actually able to pretty well match it, but put them back together again. And of course, if you're doing a Porter's Landing, oh no, we got to do George first. Oh, poor George. Go ahead. No, you're good. George took me 2 years to find all of his pieces. And then with, next, a little bit of gluing, we were able to get him, along with his wife and his sister, back together again. And that's George today. I think I did a darn good job with the Lithimax on him.
Impressive.
He had
The one that was in 7 pieces that's now...
yeah, he was in about 7 pieces, yeah. And he actually has a triangle piece there that we never found. And with the Lithimax, we're able to fill that in and carve it so that it has the numbers or the lettering back in it. And, all right, so if you're doing Porter's Landing Cemetery, you have to at least show a porter. So little Annie was completely buried, and I was just probing around because her footstone was there, so I figured the rest of her had to be there, and I found her, and we got her up, and we gave her a new base and cleaned her up a bit, and now there's Annie. So that's the type of things that we're doing. It's not just cleaning, we're actually restoring and preserving the stones. So hopefully they will last for quite a bit longer. And if you haven't been to Porter's Landing Cemetery in a while, we'll be there Friday through Tuesday. Come on down. I'll give you a brush and some D2 and a little water, and or just come and look and walk through. Just don't disturb Joe. He's on the clock. We want him to do as much as possible. Questions?
Fantastic. Thank you, Joyce.
Yep. Yep.
We have a question. Who funds this? And is it adequate?
Pardon me?
Is it adequate?
Is it adequate? Oh, heck no.
Okay.
But it's a wonderful start.
Well, I think this is so important, particularly since they're all ancient cemeteries and the histories and everything we have here. And I know when
Yeah.
you walk on Upper Mass Landing, you got a lot of work there that would
Oh,
get done. So I'd be interested maybe for next year.
and that's a beautiful cemetery,
It
Upper
is.
Mass Landing. Same parish needs even more work. That's the one that's just beside Wilbur's. But there is one, it's called the Dunning Cemetery, and if we can get Joe to come back next year and funding is available, the Dunning Cemetery is on the way to Brunswick, off the Flying Point Road on the water side. And in order to get to it, I've been going down the gully, shimming across a tree, and then up the gully. And the only way you know it's there is because there's a flag for a Civil War soldier, Private Dunning. And there are 5 graves in there. They're all down. The stones are all there. They're actually in fairly good shape. And it's on the deed, and there's a 15-foot right-of-way on the deed from the Flying Point Road. So I'm working with Public Works now to see if the new owners will be okay with us opening that up, and then we can get his tripod in there and actually restore that one. So that would be my next one, because that one is really, and I wouldn't have to shimmy across the log anymore. I got splinters last year.
Well, I just, next year during budget preparations, it'd be nice to have a report from you to see, what
Yeah.
we could do maybe to help out.
Yeah, I mean, as many weeks as we can get him, because he actually works from sunup to sundown and sometimes past. He is so passionate about this. It's amazing. And what he will do is teach a class. And then if somebody wants to, they can then come to the workshop and continue learning. And he's just always teaching. And it's just wonderful to be able to work with him. Yeah, so.
He's volunteering his time right now?
Yeah.
Oh, no, we're paying.
Thank you very much, Joyce. Awesome
welcome.
job.
This is really impressive work. We're lucky to have you and the crew that you're working with, so thank you for doing all the work, and thanks for... The cemetery on West Street, is that a town-owned one?
No.
That's the private one, or a private one? One private.
But there is one out on Bustins that someday I need to talk. There is a cemetery, there are 2 cemeteries out on Bustins. One of them is a family cemetery, and the other one is the Bibber Cemetery, and he's actually a Revolutionary War and was one of the original farmers. The Bibber farmhouse is still out there, owned by the Kitchens. But he, his wife, and one of the children are there, and that one, the town Earl needs to pick that one up. He doesn't know that yet. And we need to do a little fencing and a little cleaning and up of the area.
That's a
But-
town one.
But it's right there on Bustins, and we put a flag out every year on it.
Awesome, thank you again. All right, anybody else raising their hand for public comment?
There is no.
Okay. Thank you, Joyce. Next up, our seventh order of business, all our action items, the first of which is our consent agenda, item 12923. We have 2 items, a liquor license renewal for Cadenza, and 9 individuals that received awards from the Gould Trust Fund. Any discussion on why we should have these separate rather than as one? Seeing none, Councilor Fournier, do you want to make a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Certainly. Be it ordered that the July 11th, 2023 consent agenda be adopted.
Second?
Thank you, Councilor Lawrence. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to 0. Thank you. Next up, item 130-23, regarding setting a public hearing for special amusement permit renewals for 4 businesses in town. Anything to add, background on these?
I don't have anything. They work with Chris. I don't know that she has anything to add.
Just routine renewals? Any questions for the manager or the clerk? Councilor Fournier?
Another question. Is this an old ordinance that requires it to come to the council? One of those that were probably passed in the 30s or 40s? And if it is there a way that we could get the town clerk to do, which I think this business locally is, and I don't need an answer tonight, but I think this could be one of the efficiency things we look at being a lot more efficient on business.
I think sometimes in the past, you have had cases where people have come in when you've done these, because you only do these when there's liquor and music, and sometimes abutters find music loud. So I believe that years ago, we had people come in. I don't know if you have anything to add. Okay.
I was just wondering if that was the fact, that if someone came to the clerk and said, hey, we have an issue maybe with the noise or something like that, then we could address that at this body. I don't know, but I'm just maybe looking at a little more efficiencies.
Does the state require us to do this, Chris? Do you know?
No, I think it can be per municipality by ordinance.
So we can definitely look into that.
Councilor Lawrence, you want to read this motion?
Sure. Be it ordered that a public hearing be set for August 1st, 2023 at the town council meeting starting at 6 PM in town council chambers to consider special amusement permit renewals for the following. 1, Cadenza, 5 Depot Street. 2, Freeport Oyster Bar, 43 Main Street. 3, Stars and Stripes at 8 Varney Road. And 4, the Hilton Garden Inn at 5 Park Street.
Second?
Thank you, Councilor Daniele. Any discussion? All in favor of renewing the permits?
Aye.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to 0. Thank you. Next up, 131-23 regarding a public hearing for the shellfish conservation ordinance.
So we had a request from Charlie Tatro today to table this item. Chris had a case where they did the lottery and there's an extra license, and the ordinance doesn't tell you, it's a student license. The ordinance doesn't tell you what to do when you have an extra license. So she drafted some language and brought it forward to the Shellfish Commission to look at and make a recommendation on. So we put it on here to move it forward, but then we also found out they have some other amendments that they're close to wrapping up. So instead of setting 2 separate public hearings for 2 back-to-back meetings, Charlie suggested that we could table this. They're gonna meet, I think, this week, and they would be back to you with a new agenda item on the 25th.
So in light of that, I would move that we table item 131-23 to our July 25th meeting.
So moved.
Thank you, Councilor Lawrence. Is there a
Second.
Second from Councilor Daniele. Thank you. All in favor of tabling the item?
Aye.
5 to 0. Okay. Item 132-23 regarding an over-limit period for the Maine Department of Transportation for municipal roads. You want to give us some background on that?
Sure. So this is something you guys have done recently for the bridge projects. MDOT does plan to do some repair work or paving out on the Old County Road overpass. So before they start these projects, they like to enter into an agreement with the municipality that if they need to bring equipment in, that you acknowledge whether or not you would be willing to issue over-limit permits when the time comes. The regulations do allow you to also require a bond in case there's any damage when that happens. So these have been, the last couple have been pretty standard where you've approved them, and note that we can require a bond. The language says that they would work with us to come up with an amount, and they would bond if in fact they do come forward and ask for an over-limit permit at a future date. So you're really just acknowledging your willingness to consider our future request for an over-limit permit on roads TBD once they have a contractor in place and all the details. And this is something that you'd need to sign and we need to send back to them.
So it's an agreement for an agreement that might come down later. Okay.
Right.
So with the language proposed tonight, a bond would be asked if they in fact have to bring in oversized equipment?
Right, well,
Doesn't say that, I'm just.
Yeah, I think you could tweak the wording, I think, a little bit if you wanted to. I think you could say
If-
that the town council enters into an agreement with MDOT.
So correct me if I'm wrong, Caroline, because we do require other projects to bond when they're doing significant work, correct?
We do for, like, commercial construction projects. The last time you issued one of these, you did have that same note on there noting that you could request the bond. I think you could tweak the motion to acknowledge that you agree that should a future request come in for an over-limit permit with this project, you agree to issue that and will require a bond prior to issuance of the permit, or something like that.
I just think it's important that we keep our roads up, and most of the time, nothing's going to happen, but if something does, we got it covered.
So we're going to change this may to a will in the note, saying the municipality will require the contractor to obtain a bond.
but do we even need to do that? Because they haven't required, or they haven't requested the excessive, wait, they will. This is
They
just
will, yeah.
saying, hey, we're willing to entertain the thought. We're
Yep.
not saying no.
I think you could just insert a will. The town council will issue for a
Yep.
stated period. You're further ordered that the at such time, the municipality will require the contractor. You could tweak that last one.
Counselor Daniele, do you want to take a stab at that, adding the will in the first part and be it further ordered for the note?
Be it ordered that the town council will issue for a stated period of time a construction over-limit permit to the Maine Department of Transportation contractor for transporting construction equipment that exceeds legal weight limits over municipal roads. Be it further ordered that the municipality will require the contractor to obtain a satisfactory bond pursuant to 29-A MRSA, Section 2388, to cover the cost of any damage that might occur as a result of the over-limit loads.
Second.
Thank you, and thank you, Counselor Lawrence. Any other discussion on this one?
I think that makes sense because, I mean, if it was just MDOT trucks and just MDOT crew, then, you know, we could probably have a straight conversation like, hey, there's a dent in the road. But they're going to sub out a lot of that work, and maybe or maybe not, there's an MDOT person on site when it happens, and then we get into a dispute. So this is a easy insurance policy, and they're going to accept it. I think it's a good move.
So now, does that allow you to sign the bond, or does it still have to come to us?
The council is the body that has the power to issue the over-limit permit. You'll sign this agreement tonight, I'll send it back, but they would come back to you in the bond. They will just, we'll
So we could
work
have done
with
it
them to
then,
give the
too.
language.
We didn't have to.
Yeah, but they want the,
Yeah,
they
they
want the
needed this,
agreement
yeah.
now, so
Oh,
that
I know
they-
that. No, I'm
Yeah.
saying, but that was what this was. It's like, will you guys
Oh.
agree to do this? Yes, and then we'll submit the bond, or they'll submit their over permit, and at that point, we can say, yeah, you need insurance.
Yeah, I don't think they've actually come back to you on the other couple that you've issued recently. I don't know if they needed them or,
That's only because they didn't need them. If they do need them, they still have to come
Yep.
to this body.
Any other comments? Nope. All right, all in favor of this motion?
Aye.
That's everybody, 5-0. All right, down to the final two. Item 133-23, regarding ARPA funds for gap needs for housing. So it's got my name on it, but maybe we can tag team a little bit. This one came up as I'll do my best. I think, do we have Sarah here as well if we need to?
We have
Okay.
Sarah. Do you want me to?
Yeah, Sarah can do a quicker job explaining it all than I will.
Yeah, so a request came into Jessica that a while back you guys designated some ARPA funds for FCS and the Maine Quality Housing Coalition, and part of that money was to help people that are in need of homes or need of a place to live that might not qualify for GA. There's been a demand, and the way we have the funds set up requires, I think I get it right, Quality Housing Coalition to work with FCS, make a request, FCS to make the request for a town. And because it's so hard to get housing right now, that delay is causing some people to miss out on housing. So we had Sarah here tonight. She can give you some additional information, but they're hoping that the council is willing to allocate the remaining 31,000 approximate dollars directly to the Quality Housing Coalition so that we can quickly get people housing when they meet the standards. So I will promote Sarah to a panelist so that she can give you some additional background. I did run this by Jessica, and if the council's okay with it, Jessica didn't have any issues with it.
Okay.
All right, Sarah's on.
Hi, Sarah. If you
Hi,
wanna-
everyone. How are you?
Great.
Long time no see.
What can you tell us?
Well, yeah, I mean, Caroline, you did a wonderful job summarizing it, but this is a discussion that I've been having for a little bit with Victoria, who's the executive director of the Quality Housing Coalition. And just the time that it takes to process the requests that they make to us, that we then in turn take to you guys to then add to a warrant. It is a little concerning, and there's been some issues with some landlords not willing to wait or having some concerns about waiting. And so we wanted to approach you and see if this was something that you would be willing to consider. You guys have already sent the 20,000 to Quality Housing Coalition for the salaried position, or for the salary for the position for the individual who's doing the housing searching. The house searching, and so this would just be kind of another step in the process.
Got it. Thanks, Sarah. My only question was whether or not it would be okay for us to disperse the money to FCS and have you send it to Quality Housing when they make a request, or if that's going to add too much time into the mix.
The timing is still a factor. We have our treasurer come in once a week to sign checks, so there could still be a delay. It's certainly quicker than our existing process. And we would be open to doing that, but I think ultimately the goal would be to make this as quick of a turnaround as possible when landlords are willing to work with Quality Housing Coalition and the folks that they're supporting. So, that would be the ideal situation. And just to kind of give you guys a heads up too, this was something, so we did, I think Melanie and I had kind of talked with you guys about, we asked the state for a matching grant, which we were successful in getting. So the state also has committed $60,000 towards this work because the need is so great. And so they, once we were awarded that, I did work with them, with the state, and they were willing to send the money directly to Quality Housing Coalition. We're helping with the reporting and still kind of in charge of how everything's going, but that relationship has been working great, given a very similar model.
Awesome. Councilor Egan?
In my day job, I come across and work next to, not directly with, but next to Quality Housing Coalition, and they're having really solid success with placing new Mainers as well as other folks that are unhoused into apartments, and they're finding landlords when nobody else can find landlords. So they're working directly with landlords, and they're addressing the concerns that landlords have had. And with their support and a little bit of their funding, they're able to take those curbs out of the way so that people can get into the unit. So I've been extremely impressed with how they've been able to find housing in an extremely tight market where you can't find these places advertised. They're finding them. So I think they're doing great work, and I wouldn't be so enthusiastic about forwarding our funds directly to an organization prior to them actually being deployed for intended use. But in this case, particularly since we've leveraged state money to match with it, I'm feeling comfortable about doing this.
Counselor Fournier?
I think John answered part of my question. Who's eligible for these grants?
Yeah, so yeah, John, you did do a good job of that. So primarily the focus has been on new Mainers, just with the transition of the hotels kind of getting done, supporting folks through their homeless situation. We have seen a shift, I would say, more recently over the last month or so, where we're looking at more traditional Mainers that are struggling with certain situations. Again, we know the ERA funding did end in June, so there's quite a few folks that were also living in hotels but have lived in Maine their entire lives. And so they have been supported by Quality Housing Coalition. I've also had some really sad situations that I've come across as of late, where folks are just really struggling with housing. They're at risk of homelessness or experiencing it, living in their cars, working. It's a really tough housing situation for a lot of folks right now. And Quality Housing has been very supportive of the individuals that we've made referrals to them for. There is a limitation, though, in regards to who they can help, in the sense that the individual or the household does need to be stable enough to be successfully housed. So if there's any issues of substance misuse, if there's severe mental health that's not currently being supported in one way or another, if there's concerns that placement could jeopardize a relationship with a landlord because they won't be successful in that housing, that probably is not going to be a great match for their program. So I would say for the majority of folks that we're working with, it's a great referral. We're getting a really great response, but we do have to be careful about who we're referring to. And if folks are not going to fit within their, within what they can do or who they're looking for, we are making other referrals.
So pretty much everyone that meets those qualifications will be able to access it.
Yeah, that's my understanding. That's been my experience to date. Like I said, I've been really impressed with the work that
I
they've
think that's
done.
important. I know we are
Yeah,
having
it
obligations
is.
with new Mainers, but I also know there's other people with other needs that are getting kind of blocked out from putting in for things. So I want to make sure that there is an opportunity for people along with the new Mainers that can apply for it. Thank you.
And that's certainly been my experience with them, but I think that's an important point to raise.
Counselor Daniele?
How long will the 31,000+ last for? Like, is that like a
Good question.
4-month thing, 2-month thing?
Yeah, so I think Dan, Caroline, is there a gentleman on here named Dan? He's joining us from
Yes.
Quality Housing Coalition.
His hand's up. I will promote him.
Excellent. Thank you, Dan. I was hoping he would tag in. He would be the expert on that.
I'm on mute. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we sure can, Dan.
Hey there. Thanks for having me tonight. Appreciate you talking through this issue. Just in regard to the last question, I guess it's sort of hard to say exactly how long the 31,000 would last. If we're successful, obviously that money would be able to get out the door in the next month. We average, between $1,000 to $4,000 to help place folks in their units. So you can sort of get a sense of how many tenants we'd be looking to house with that amount of money. We are earmarking these funds specifically to folks that had previously been housed within some sort of facility in Freeport. So that is one, restriction that we're abiding by, that means that these funds won't necessarily be the first out the door in terms of who we're helping tomorrow and the next day, because we're looking for specific populations. And it certainly incentivizes us to continue working with those populations. I don't know if that answers your question, but I'm happy to elaborate further if needed.
No, it does. Thank you. I guess I was wondering, John's glowing endorsement makes me feel very comfortable, but would we want to do 15,000 now and then hold the other and then 15,000 later or whatever to make it more palatable, control the funds a little bit, but still allow the process to go? I'm not, again, Councilor Egan's position was very helpful. But.
Sarah, is it safe to assume that there would be some reporting on how the money got spent if we or finance director, somebody wanted to ask you?
Absolutely. Yeah. Like I said, there's certain reporting requirements that we're adhering to with the state funding. And I don't see why we wouldn't replicate that for what we're doing at the town level. It's easy enough to do.
Perfect. Thanks. Any other questions? Discussions? No. I think we have to read this one in first before we vote on it. So I think Councilor Egan, if you want to do the honors on this one.
Sure. Be it ordered that the town of Freeport disperse to Quality Housing Coalition, QHC, the remaining $31,939 of the $40,000 previously appropriated from ARPA funds to FCS to fulfill gap needs for housing.
Second.
Thank you, Councilor Lawrence. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
See 5 hands. Thank you. And thank you, Sarah and Dan, and everybody that you're working with to do this noble work. I know the community really appreciates the work you're doing, as do we. So thank you.
Great.
And that brings us to our last item of the night, item 134-23, regarding some funds for the Cousins River Bridge. Caroline, do you want to?
Sure. So this is a standard agreement that you've seen before for other projects involving DOT. The town, as part of the improvements to the Cousins River Bridge, the town asked for the installation of a 10-foot wide multi-use trail over the bridge. We budgeted $140,000 for this. The cost estimate from DOT, or what they're charging us, came in lower. It's a little over $70,000. So I need to execute this agreement, but wanted to bring it to the council. I did have Adam and Earl look it over. Adam really didn't have too much to comment other than the budget difference. He felt like it overall reflected what had been previously discussed. I more wanted Earl to be aware of it because we will have to take on future maintenance of plowing this path and all that in the future. But really, it's just here for council action. If you sign off on it, I'll send it back to DOT.
Councilor Regan?
Just a quick clarification. Is the path on the bridge or is it on the Freeport side of the bridge on up into Freeport? I'm just not sure where the
I'm
where the
going to look
boundary
at
is.
Chip because Complete Streets was very involved in this, and I think he can.
This is the path going over the bridge.
Okay.
And I'm not sure which side of the bridge it is, but this is between Freeport and Yarmouth.
Right.
And I think Yarmouth is paying the other half of this.
So we
Yeah,
do,
yeah,
so we
with
literally
matches.
do half and half and figure out some work agreement for maintenance so we don't shovel all our snow onto their side
Yeah,
or
I
whatever it
did.
is.
We don't do that?
I did ask Adam
Yeah,
about that.
okay,
That's a
great.
good point. He said Earl and the Public Works Director
For
in
Yarmouth.
Yarmouth. We have this on roads, so he's like, they'll just work
Yeah.
out an agreement.
Great.
And this is 10 foot where all these other bridges are 12 feet. And I
Right.
don't know that that's a big difference, but
Yeah.
I know that when
Less
we build something,
pedestrians.
it's already too small.
Less pedestrians down there maybe, so it may
Yeah,
not
it would be
as
more
as
bikes.
impactful.
Well,
Yeah.
future part of this too would be another extension up to
Right, this
South Freeport
is
Road
part of the
Y.
trail system that goes from that bridge up to here and in
Yep.
town. And it's also part of the greenway that goes all the way to Florida.
Yep, yep.
So,
I'm assuming it's not possible to advocate for a 12-foot path now, considering the cost is cheaper than we were expecting, right?
I would assume probably not, since it's probably all engineered. Probably
all
not the time to
designed.
do that.
well, with those bridges, they didn't start designing it until, or they had part of the design, no. They didn't. They came back to us and said, this is what it's going to cost you. if you
That's
want
why we had
this."
to have the vote in March, because they were going to move forward with design, and we were going to miss our
Right,
window.
So I don't know if they,
I-
but we'd have to
Again,
talk to
Jake
Yarmouth,
for
yes.
organizing all
I
of that.
think we're the last
Get that in there.
party to sign the agreement. We have to sign it, and Yarmouth had to do the same.
Right, and because it's two towns, I don't know that this is a good time to start messing with it.
Counselor Fournier, do you want to read the be it ordained and further ordained?
Certainly. Be it ordained that the proposals state municipal cost-sharing agreement with the Department of Transportation for the installation of 10-foot wide multi-use trail on Cousins Island Bridge and approached in Freeport in the amount of, in the amount up to $70,785 be approved. Be it further ordained that the town manager be authorized to execute the final agreement on behalf of the town of Freeport to include any clerical, non-substantive changes from the draft agreement upon by the town council.
Second.
Thank you, Counselor Lawrence. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
That's everybody, 5-0. That's our last action item. Anybody care to make a motion to adjourn or discuss anything else?
I'll make a motion to
Thank
adjourn.
you, Counselor Lawrence.
Second.
All in favor of the motion to adjourn?
Aye.
You were way
Last
up.
meeting, 9 minutes slower than last meeting. We are adjourned at 6:59.
And you guys do have stuff to sign.
Yes.
The original agreement for the overlimit permit.
All of us sign that?
He's open?
Yes, yep,
So we
so
have liquor licenses.
this is you guys.
These are already done, I think.
It's on the back page.
Oyster.
This is, sorry.
This one. Is it just this one? Yeah, it's just one license.
It says and approach.
I think it and approaches. I assume that's like,
It's the approach to the bridge.
right, not the
so-
whole path up to town.
No, it's just,
That'd
Are we
be
gonna
a
get
bargain.
Yeah,
Back
right.
up to the.
We
the
are.
line? That's coming, right?
that's
That's a
coming,
separate
but that's a
project.
separate project.
But we have money set aside for that too, right? Okay.
Right.
Just making
You
sure.
do.
Our
That's all.
path